Hello and welcome to the 314th edition of Hit the Ropes Radio. This is Darius Brown. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Demetrius Stokes, and what is set to be the last. I always do this, Stokes. I always so unprofessional. I got my. I'm trying to look at the
chat,
the show, and coast at the same time, getting double feedback. But welcome anyways to the last show before Christmas. Are you ready, Stokes, for Christmas? Did you get your wife something? Did you get your kids something nice?
You know what? I got my wife a new house, man. That's what I got her. So we've agreed to hold off on exchanging gifts this year. So we just bought a crib. So yes, but I'm trying to get ready, man. Trying to get ready here. Always a big fan of the holiday season. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of those out there in podcast land. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
And is there any news, any update when you're going to be released from this prison that you were apparently held captive
in? Yes, I'm currently in Rikers Island right now, broadcasting live. But yes, it is very dark and gloomy in my basement. I need to improve the lighting here, but Stokes still live and in living color. Nothing stops me from being on these broadcasts, man. Locked up, prison, doesn't matter, man. I'm here. Hey, look, it's either this or it's the Reading Rainbow room that Shane broadcasts from when he's on the podcast. He's got giraffes, and I'm like, man, he's like, is he filming Sing in the background? You got the giraffes and the elephants and all the animals in the background. So, hey, we all have our unique settings, except for you. You look like you're straight in an office studio, something going on there. But I'm in prison. Shane's in the nursery. Hey, we all got our hangups, but we're here. That's the important thing.
We are here indeed. A lot going on as the year of 2016 is wrapping up. A lot of people are saying this year will never end. This year has been quite horrible for some, but you just bought a house. I just bought a house, so HTR's money is looking right. The offices is
I don't know about that, but hey, thank God for loans.
What? I paid mine straight cash.
Okay. Hey. Well, I gotta negotiate a new contract then, because apparently you're getting all the money.
Well, the first season it was you and your vacations. Now it's me and straight cash bonuses.
There you go.
That it is what it is. So, but a lot to get to. We just had a pay-per-view. It was definitely a throwaway pay-per-view, but there were some interesting events and takeaways from Roadblock into the line. So we'll get into that a little bit, and the feuds that have popped off from there and some that have come to a close. But before we get into all that, Stokester, over the last course, I guess this has been growing over the course of the last couple of weeks, early December, up until today, there's been an interesting feud. Usually something that builds up, that has like a WrestleMania main event quality to it. This one's a little bit different. This one is Chael Sonnen and Big Van Vader. The former UFC turned Bellator fighter in Chael Sonnen, former WCW, former WWE fighter. Have you heard the story that's been popping off and brewing between these two guys?
So I'm trying to get myself. I heard a little bit about it. You brought it up, in some pre-show prep, and I'm like, man, what's going on? So apparently we got MMA legend, right? Chael Sonnen, or a legend in many people's eyes, PO'd at Big Van Vader, who, in many people's eyes is a pro wrestling legend. I guess for no showing his podcast. Chael Sonnen has a podcast called You're Welcome. And Vader was supposed to appear on there. And after waiting for well over 30 minutes, Sonnen was trying to, reach out to Vader, get him on the air, whatever, couldn't get him. And Sonnen expressed his opinions about Vader, calling him a flake, said he was drunk, illiterate, dumb. I mean, apparently Sonnen may be lobbying for a match with Vader at WrestleMania. I don't know. WWE probably needs to capitalize on this. But yeah, apparently Chael Sonnen not very happy with Vader.
Now let's give this a shot. We've tried this before. We'll see if it works this time. We'll see. Let's hear. This is from You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen. All rights to him and podcast 1. But here's what he had to say.
I'm not hearing anything.
All right, Stokes, are still not hearing anything?
No, I didn't get the sound clip there.
Okay. All right. Let me pause it. All right. So not hearing the sound clip, unfortunately. Let me check here. Yep. John in the chat room. So no problem. So basically, you did sum up a big portion of it, but the part that you didn't say was the reason why Chael Sonnen was so mad is, one, he said he was doing this as a favor to his friend, his unnamed friend. His friend reached out to Chael Sonnen to have Big Van Vader come in. But here's the key. He said we had a deal. He said it wasn't his deal. Chael Sonnen said that Vader made the deal. So there's no confusion about what the deal was, because Vader said, let's hear the terms of this deal. And Sonnen just said, okay. So, and then he says, you don't run out on us you don't scumbag a gangster. You don't go run out. And if you're doing this to me, then you're probably doing this all over town. So he doesn't say that he paid Big Van Vader, but it sounds like he gave Vader some kind of financial compensation to appear on his podcast. Now, Stokes, when we came back, we said, hey, maybe we should reach out to some people and see if they're ready to come back on the greatest show on earth, that is Hit the Road podcast. So we reached out to a couple people. Some people have changed their numbers since way back when we did our thing. They fired their PR person that we used to talk to, so on and so forth. I'm going to pull the curtain back a little bit on this one, Stokes. We don't usually do this, but it's relevant and it's appropriate, I think. We reached out also to Big Van Vader. We did this on September 29th. We reached out to Big Van Vader. October 1st, he came back with us. We just said our usual, I'm not going to give our magic secret sauce to how we talk to these people, but we reached out. And he said in response, I'm interested in a paid interview.
Oh.
Let me know. Leon. And and I understand what Chael was slamming him for. He was saying that Vader slurred his words, but it was all. He also said it was all through text. So, and this came from a phone. You know how if you respond from a phone, you can see it. It's automatically timestamped for us, and it is very. The sentence is not that great, but point being, he did ask for money to do our interview. We have never, ever paid any of our guests to come on. We've had a couple that have done it in MMA. They've asked for some back, and we've got nothing. But what is your thoughts on Big Van Vader? He's asking for money. We know, first and foremost, it's legit. He's asking for money. I don't know that for a fact that he asked Chael Sonnen, but Chael Sonnen made it very. He alluded to it very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on what's going down? And he also, to before I hand it off to you, Vader did respond. He said he forgot. He said that he's been hit in the head a lot. He's been playing football since he was 8, has had concussions, and simply forgot. But if Chael Sonnen wants to see him, he will put him over his knee and spank him. That was Vader's response. So he didn't say anything about money, but acknowledged that it was supposed to go down.
Okay, so there's a couple things that could be in play here. Vader forgot. He got hit in the head a lot. He may be hitting something else, which is why he forgot. I don't know if that's a bottle or whatever. I can't speculate. I'm not going to sit up here and make any accusations. I don't, Vader could kick my butt. So, but we have that angle. And then we also have the angle that maybe, this is a work, right? Maybe this is all a part of some elaborate plan to try to build something between Chael Sonnen and Vader and maybe get some type of publicity out of this to the point where it piques the interest of one Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And maybe there's this big event coming up in a few months called WrestleMania. And maybe, just maybe, Vader can get one last chance in the spotlight. Chael Sonnen, who is does he still actively fight? I don't know. I guess he's still an active fighter. Yes. But I know most of the time when I see him like doing like the commentating on ESPN and stuff like that. So maybe, and then you got a big name like Chael Sonnen. I don't think, but he's not. Is he signing UFC still?
Nope, he's with Bellator, so he would most likely be free to.
Okay, so he's probably free to jump around, do something, kind of a one-off thing with WWE. Chael Sonnen definitely has the personality, kind of like Ronda Rousey, where I could actually, Chael Sonnen, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, those are personalities that I could actually see in the WWE and actually legitimately, be able to have some type of success because they already have, the charisma and everything. You just probably have to put the ring acumen with all of that. But I say all that to say that this could be a work just leading up to trying to get hype from WWE to push this to maybe a event like WrestleMania. If not, then I could totally buy that Vader needs some loot because he asked us for loot when we, reached out to him about being on the show. So it's my take on it, man.
Very interesting. To also clarify, Vader's response about the slurring and everything else. He says he has not had a sip of alcohol in 15 years. So he vehemently denies drinking and being drunk when he's responding to the texts. Also, it is important to note, to your take, when's the last time we've seen this go down? We saw this go down with Will Ospreay, I believe, and Big Van Vader, where they were trading barbs on Twitter as Vader's response to the style of these young guys and not really selling. And what did it lead to? It led to a match between the two. So you might be very much on point with the fact that this could all be a work. But it may be one of those work shoots where it starts as a shoot.
Yeah.
And then the dollars come involved, and Chael Sonnen's looking to get his money back in form of a big payday at WrestleMania or any indie show that would probably have them.
Yeah, and I'm sure any indie show would have them. I mean, can you imagine the publicity and the notoriety and the pub that would bring in to any event? So yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that part. Anybody would be willing to take that on, especially on the independent circuit.
Yes. So interesting stuff. We'll keep an eye on it. Follow us at Hit the Ropes on Twitter, Facebook, and as well as hittheropesradio.com, where we have news, articles, and insights for more information as it becomes available. Let's take us back to Sunday. Sunday was the reincarnation of Roadblock. Roadblock into the line, WWE's Raw pay-per-view, their last of the year, with the main event being Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. It's a throwaway pay-per-view, Stokester. There was not much to be had, to be continued and finished for the most part, but they tried to give us a reason to watch, a reason to tune in. Did you tune in? What's your overall grade for the Roadblock pay-per-view?
Wow. Well, admittedly, because I thought, like you, that it was a throwaway pay-per-view, I figured that I had some better things to do with my time. Throwaway pay-per-view. Hey, chill, do something else, watch some football or something. But no, I did catch a little bit of the event. And, it was, for a throwaway pay-per-view, there were some notable things that took place. It was an average, I would say, pay-per-view. Maybe C plus, B minus kind of range for me. Obviously, the big thing that happened there, a couple things, was, New Day finally dropping the tag team titles to Cesaro and Sheamus, which, if you didn't see that coming, you probably, I don't know. I teased Shane because Shane said, man, he predicted the New Day were going to retain. And he says, man, I should have went with my first mind and went with Cesaro and Sheamus. And I'm like, dude, first of all, you host a wrestling podcast. You should have saw this coming from a mile away. It was obvious that's what was going to happen. And it was due. It was time for it to happen. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the New Day going forward. Obviously they have the charisma as a group to be relevant without titles, which they actually did before they even got the titles, 4 trillion days ago, or however long it's been, their title reign has been. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if they stay together, if they split them up, what they do there. The most disappointing thing, man, for me for Roadblock, although obviously it was a great match, the Iron, is it called an Iron Man? They called it an Iron Man match. Is it an Iron Woman match? Is it an Iron Person match? I don't really know what to call it, but I just call it what WWE called it, an Iron Man match. The match between Sasha and Charlotte. And man, it was so disappointing to see Sasha drop the belt. Like, she has not had a title. She's been she's like a 3-time women's champ, but like her title reigns combined are like 3 weeks. Like, she gets the belt for like a week and then she drops it again to Charlotte. I have no idea why the WWE kind of pogo stick the title like that. I know I saw some people talking about it and talking about how for them personally, it kind of took some credibility away from the title, which really Charlotte and Sasha, were really helping to build the credibility of that title with 2 great wrestlers and a great feud, over this belt. You would think it would help build it, but they kind of went overkill, if you will, with their matches, with the number of matches that they had against each other. You thought Hell in the Cell should have been the end. Like, Hell in the Cell is like the culmination of most feuds. Like, that's why you go into that, that ominous structure, as they call it. You go in there to settle scores once and for all. And like, Hell in the Cell should have been the end of it. They should have moved on at that point, but then they milked it for 2 more? Well, Hell in a Cell was in October, right? They milked it for 2 more pay-per-views. They got like 3 more matches out of the feud, and I think that was just a little bit too much. It definitely, is a potential candidate for the Ropey Awards, hint, which we'll talk about for Feud of the Year, I'm sure. But I just think the feud went too long, and then in going too long, they shouldn't have taken the belt off of Sasha Banks. But my understanding is WWE is not I guess I've been reading that Vince is not particularly fond of Sasha in terms of her carrying the belt long term. He thinks Sasha and Bailey is the money feud. I'm sorry, Bailey and Charlotte is the money feud. And so they're going to lead into that as we go into WrestleMania, which he might be right. But I just thought, man, Sasha kind of got the short end of the stick with this deal. So overall, average pay-per-view. The other matches, man, take it or leave it. But, there you go.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Sasha Banks from here. We saw a little interaction with Nia Jax on Raw. So hopefully Nia Jax systematically runs through each of the horsewomen until she gets to the champion Charlotte. And then let's see if she's able to carry her own weight at that point. But I don't know. People have varying opinions on this flip-flopping of the titles. Some are confused by it and say, hey, this is breaking or destroying the credibility, as you mentioned. And then there's others I've read on Twitter, they've come out and said, hey, I'm okay with it because this is showing that Sasha and Charlotte are equals, that on any given night, one could beat the other. So that's an interesting take on it, and may be true. But at the same time, that goes great for their rivalry. But I don't think it lends to the credibility of the championship. So,
I mean, it was so many things. Like I know some people pointed out on Twitter, like the Sasha's up like 2-1 and she's in the figure eight. And she's literally like looking at the clock, waiting for it to count down to like 2 seconds. And then she taps out. And it's like, that just wasn't done well.
Well, I disagree, Stokes, because if you're in a hold that could potentially tear, break a leg or whatever a figure four is supposed to do, a figure eight is supposed to do, that's different from a chokehold. If you're a chokehold, you just hang on and she squeezes it till you pass out. But if she's about to rip a limb off, I don't know. I even though you can see the time, if it's to that breaking point, you feel that's at that breaking point, you tap, whether it's 1 second or 20 minutes.
Okay. So what would have happened if she would have held on for 2 more seconds and time ran out? Wouldn't she have won the match? Because she would have been up two pinfalls to 1?
Right. Yep.
So you mean to tell me she couldn't have held on for 2 more seconds?
In 1 second, her limbs break. She doesn't lose the match, but tomorrow on Raw she has to hand it over because her leg's in a cast and she can't fight for 3 months.
Okay. So we're both dealing in a lot of reality here. We have to suspend our belief.
Yeah.
Okay, so
plus, let's leave you with this one. It's 2-1. You're up. You know if you tap, either it's a draw and you got your title, you're okay. You're in so much pain, you just go ahead and tap. Maybe it's a draw, you're done. Worst case scenario, you don't lose your title on a 2-2 draw. You go one more time into overtime. You play for overtime. It's you're at the 1 yard line. Do you go for it, Stokes, or do you kick a field goal and go into overtime?
Well, it depends. Am I on the road or am I at home?
That's right. So there's a lot of circumstances. It's not just okay. She has 2 seconds. Why would you tap? There's scenarios there. So hey, let me go ahead and get that tie. Let me keep my belt. Or hey, let's just go ahead and punt. Let's go into overtime and I'll pick up the victory there. So I can't blame my girl for that.
If you say so, man. I think she got played, but that's just me.
Yeah. All right. And so that was one takeaway. John in the chat room says that was a D.
Oh wow. Okay.
He says he's talking about the 16-time champion Like her father. Yep, that's the new. That was the joke on from Biggie, and then also make her win every pay-per-view match till WrestleMania 33, which was another thing. It looks like they're trying to keep this singles match title streak alive.
A little pay-per-view streak. You're talking about for Charlotte, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that may make things predictable. It may make things exciting. We will see how that plays out. But the other thing on this throwaway pay-per-view that doesn't allow it to be a D, I will give it a C plus, is the fact that Neville came back. Neville, we've been talking since the inception of 205 Live. Why is this guy not included into this division? He's a name that people know by this point. They enjoy him, and he can lend credibility to this entire division. But he comes back not as a face. He's ticked off. He's been overlooked by the company. As the title suggests, the man that creative forgot. He's been left out, and now he's making everybody pay. He's got an attitude about it, and it looks phenomenal. He's destroying people on the pay-per-view and then again on 205 Live. What do you think about Neville's return, his placement in the Cruiserweight division, and his new attitude?
I think it's refreshing, man. I think it's something that the Cruiserweight division definitely needs. You know, the personalities there for the most part, man, are kind of bland. Great wrestlers, right? But not a whole lot of charisma, not a whole lot of personality. You bring in a Neville, a guy who's been established on the main roster. You bring him on board, turn him heel, right? And let him do his thing. We know he can go in the ring. He's a former NXT champion. So I think it's a great move. Then you add an Austin Aries to that mix once he gets healthy, and you really got a good foundation, in the Cruiserweight division with Austin Aries, with Neville. You could probably throw some other guys like, who am I missing? There's somebody who's on the main roster that is not in the Cruiserweight division, and we were talking about like, man, he should be in the
Sin Cara too.
You got Kalisto,
Kalisto.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you got Kalisto. You can even put James Ellsworth in the Cruiserweight division, right? You can put him.
Hey, that might be the next step after his butt whooping on Tuesday.
It has to be, right? Like, because nobody's gonna believe that it's like, okay, this guy is not not saying he's not worthy, because I like James and he's a former guest on the show, obviously, but the Cruiserweight division would be a great place for him because he actually has a lot more charisma than I initially thought that he did. So he's actually, spreading his wings a little bit on SmackDown Live. But to go back to your original question, Neville, the heel turn was surprising. Him coming back and them injecting him into the Cruiserweight division, man, it can't do anything but help.
Absolutely. And to close off the show, we got a little frustration. We had a weird moment where they teased the breakup of Jericho and Kevin Owens once again, but it turns out that it was all a master plan to allow Kevin Owens to retain after the bout. We saw the once again pairing of the Shield. What do you think of returning Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins together here to fight the good fight? Are you stoked about this reunion, this revival of this formal team?
You know what? It's interesting, man, because when the Shield was actually in the midst of their run, I wasn't a huge fan of the Shield, but like in hindsight, you look at three guys who've had really successful runs in their own right as individuals in the WWE, but where they really, they got their start as the group in the Shield. And in hindsight, it's like, man, they actually were a pretty good faction. We've seen it in the past with other groups. How many times did Shawn Michaels and Triple H reunite, as DX, and other groups coming back together, NWO and all of its formations and different things. So I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing. Obviously, both of these guys are established singles wrestlers, but for nostalgia's sake, to bring them together to fight off, to counter Jericho, I think it's fine. I think it's cool. I'm interested to see, because really, to me, for WWE, like Chris Jericho is like smoking hot right now in terms of just his popularity and just being over. Him turning on Kevin Owens, or Kevin Owens turning on him, is probably the direct. They teased it a little bit, right? Them breaking up, but that's probably the direction they should go, and maybe they do at some point between now and WrestleMania. Because really, Kevin Owens versus Jericho for the Universal Championship, to me, the way Jericho is like, you got to strike while the iron's hot, and he's hot right now. That could be a WrestleMania match. Like that could be one of your WrestleMania main events. Maybe Kevin Owens is a great heel, so maybe Jericho makes the face turn, and you roll with that at WrestleMania, and maybe they do, but it looks like they're going to keep them together, unless something happens in this Royal Rumble match where things kind of go sideways. But I have this sneaking suspicion, man, that Roman Reigns is going to win the belt at WrestleMania. I mean, at Rumble, and is going to go into Mania as the champion. But I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I don't dislike Roman Reigns at all. I know people hate him and boo him and all that stuff. I just think, he's good as a U.S. champion. He can bring some credibility to that title by hanging on to it. Let Kevin Owens go into Mania and go against Jericho. That would be a good move.
Yeah, I feel like they're setting up a fatal 4-way at the Rumble. But that's only if the winner of the Rumble is going to be from a SmackDown brand.
You mean they're setting up a fatal 4-way at the Rumble or Mania?
I think at the Rumble. I don't know if they can pull all 4 of these guys until Mania, because it seems like it's getting close to boiling over with people getting thrown off the stage, through tables and stuff every single week.
Well, they've already established the match, the title match for Royal Rumble. Yeah, it's it's a rematch. It's Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. But here's the catch.
Oh, the shark cage.
Yes, Jericho is suspended in the shark cage, which I was like, what? How stupid is that? Like,
why it's not stupid? You know why? Just as we saw after NXT, they had a toy for it. They got to sell those shark cage toys. So that's why they paid all that money to construct the cage, to sell some toys. They only saw it at NXT for a short time in a match that nobody cared about. So they need to get a little more shine to that toy, and they're going to reuse that prop come Rumble so they can sell a couple more rings. So that's what that's all about. It's all about them dollars.
Maybe.
Okay, then maybe we get it at whatever. Who knows what they're naming their February pay-per-view?
Oh, they're naming it Roadblock, beginning of the line.
Yeah, that's right. Roadblock. Road begins again.
Roadblock. Happy New Year. It's like, Jesus, come on, man. You couldn't come up with a name for right. You could. That was like right. That is the new in your house. Not every month. That's not a major pay-per-view. It's going to be Roadblock. Summertime. Roadblock.
Hey. Well, I appreciate that, Stokes, because at least they are letting us know ahead of time which pay-per-views, if we need to skip, we can skip. If it's got Roadblock before the colon, then just go ahead and catch it on
watch it. Yeah. Catch the highlights.
So they're doing us a favor. Since they got Raw and SmackDown throwing pay-per-views every other week, we're going to have to skip a couple if we want to have a life. So
Exactly.
That all makes sense to me. I thank you for that, WWE. So, and I'm just reading in the chat. You can join us on youtube.com/Hit the Ropes Radio Show each and every Wednesday, along with every pay-per-view here. And the big four, all 4 hosts will be in the house for. So we've spoken a little about that. You teased it earlier. Every year that HTR has been running and doing our thing, we have something we call the Ropies. The Ropies are our annual award show. Ours will be, we'll let this year close out, and we will kick it off for 2016, or 2017. I know y'all trying to get over 2016. But we will have our annual awards that are voted on, as always, by you. This year, all the votes and polls will be on Twitter. Stokester, your early nomination, you gave us one. What other possible feuds of the year could you see possibly popping up on an HTR poll? What's done it for you so far?
Wow, let's see.
You said
so definitely Charlotte and Sasha Banks, right? They have to be. I'm not saying they're the winner, but they are definitely a nominee. I would probably throw Cena and AJ Styles on there. That was a pretty good feud. Trying to think of anything else sticks out. I'm trying not to just be strictly WWE, but honestly, that is the majority of what I watch.
You got to throw in Matt Hardy, Broken Matt Hardy, and maybe add in Jeff Hardy versus Abyss and his crew. Maybe that's.
I was gonna say or Matt versus Jeff, right? Or was their feud this year?
I think so. Where's Shane? Where you at, Shane?
Then they had the crazy match where he, they were fighting at his
right. Yep.
Fighting at his crib.
Yep. That may be.
I think that was earlier this year, right? So you might be able to throw that one in there. Trying to think of some other notable ones. Those are the ones.
Well, let me ask you this: NXT.
Oh my gosh! Yes. What am I thinking? Yeah. Nakamura, Samoa Joe is probably a good candidate.
Some would say Nakamura and Baylor.
Or was it Finn Balor?
Yes.
Was he feuding with Nakamura, or was Samoa Joe feuding with Finn Balor? I thought it was Joe, and I thought because didn't Joe
both, right?
Maybe I know Joe took the belt from Finn Balor, right? And then Nakamura took it from Joe. So but definitely Joe and Nakamura for me would be up there as well. That's a really good feud. You could even say the Revival versus DIY. That's another one. That's another potential, one that may be a little more iffy, but they definitely are a match of the year candidate. No doubt.
Everybody loved that match.
That match was legit. That match was legit. So,
who's your does James Ellsworth get newcomer of the year?
Wow.
He's got to be in the running.
Well, so how do we qualify a newcomer? Like, is this because is AJ Styles a newcomer? Well, no, because he's not new to wrestling. He's new to he debuted in the WWE in Royal Rumble of 2016, so he was new to WWE. But we're just saying, kind of just somebody who came from the independents and now is on the kind of okay. We can go with that.
Anybody jump in from promotion to promotion.
Gotcha. Okay, so that would eliminate AJ Styles.
So any of your NXT guys, for the most part, Bobby Roode would not count, so that would disqualify him.
Sure. Wow. I guess technically, I don't know. Does Nakamura? Nakamura wasn't in a major promotion prior to
the U.S.
Not in the U.S.
All U.S. based.
But he didn't debut he debuted in 2015 in NXT, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so it wasn't this year. So yeah, man, maybe
he's got to be the forefront because who else? Braun Strowman was 15.
Yeah, maybe James Ellsworth. There's people that we're missing, man, that we're not thinking of.
Well, that's why we had the vote. This is
so
go down right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and HD just brought up a great point in the chat room. A lot of the newcomer of the year candidates you probably could pull from the cruiserweight division. Your TJ Perkins, your your you can't handle this guy. What's his name? The champ. I'm having a brain fart. What's the champ's name?
Rich Swann. Rich Homie Swann.
Rich Homie Swann. Yeah, you could probably throw him in the mix. So a number of guys from the cruiserweight division definitely Hot Dog would be a candidate. So we'll have to think on that one a little bit more. And like Dare said, we'll throw up the nominees on Twitter. But yes, so we'd have newcomer of the year, we would have feud of the year, obviously match of the year. I just talked about the Revival versus DIY. That was a great match. Anything stick out for you?
Feud wise or match of the year?
Match of the year.
My match of the year.
Did we talk about feud of the year?
Yep. We said you mentioned Charlotte.
Okay.
To start here.
Yeah.
I don't know my match of the year right now. I'm gonna have to hit the network.
There were a few, man. There are a few that could be in the mix. I mean, obviously you could throw in one of the Charlotte Sasha Banks matches. Probably they had some good ones, but what Hell in a Cell sticks out for me. Did they wrestle at SummerSlam? Has the feud been going on that long? Did they go at SummerSlam? Hell in a Cell sticks out for me. The Asuka Bailey match was a great match. That's another match that kind of stuck out for me from over in NXT. That last the one from NXT Takeover before SummerSlam, the Samoa Joe Nakamura match. That match was legit. That was a good match. It's been some good ones, man, and I'm sure there's some others that stick out that I can't think of at the moment. Those are just some of the ones at the top of my head. Yeah. So
fair enough.
John in the chat room said we should have a worst feud of the year category.
I think that's AJ and
Ellsworth.
And Ellsworth, man.
Oh man, I don't know, man.
Because it's your world champion,
Man, but SmackDown,
on somebody who just got into the building yesterday. Come on.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting, man? I understand the reasoning for the brand extension, like why they do it, because they're trying to get more guys, more exposure and stuff. But the rosters are so thin. Like SmackDown, their main event scene is so thin. Like we were talking about a few weeks back, like who was going to be, I don't know if you remember, we were talking about who was going to be AJ Styles' next challenger. And by process of elimination, the only feasible person that made sense was Dolph Ziggler. And who is it? Lo and behold, it's Dolph Ziggler. So, he's in the picture. So, it was, that's just really predictable. And that's because there aren't very many, all the main event guys are on Raw. Like they don't have that many main event guys on SmackDown. So they got to do something. Because now what's happening is I kind of think, and I'm going off subject because we're talking about Ropey nominees, but they're kind of spreading themselves thin because they don't want to pull guys up from NXT because they're trying to keep NXT, as its own brand and keep it legit.
Yep.
But what's happening is now they're spreading themselves thin because that talent that they can bring up, they're like, no, like there's no reason why Nakamura shouldn't be on SmackDown or Raw. There's no reason Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, the Revival has been on NXT forever. DIY and the Revival, the SmackDown tag team division is whack. Like DIY and the Revival.
Yeah, but the Revival would get treatment like the Vaudevillains.
You're right.
They're too vanilla.
You could be right. Yeah,
I get your point, and it's weak. And guess what? Their biggest superstar comes back next week in John Cena. But what do? I mean, can you really thrust him back into the main event picture with AJ Styles yet again so soon?
Right.
It's
a tough call. But I mean,
they
have a ton of talents in NXT who would go on. I mean, like Nakamura, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode would go on SmackDown now, and they would be main event. They would be main event level talent on SmackDown.
Yes.
Obviously, you can't throw the Miz in the mix because AJ Styles is a heel champion. I mean, the Miz, outside the Miz, right? You could, and you should. The Miz and AJ Styles are probably the two best things going on SmackDown currently. So I don't know, man. It's just interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, they're probably going to wait to after WrestleMania before they start shuffling things around with any type of redrafts and trades and all that talk. But worst feud of the year. I would have to think on that a little bit more too, because I actually think James Ellsworth, AJ Styles, the whole Dean Ambrose, that whole triangle has actually been entertaining. I don't think it was terrible, but you're right. I'm not saying James Ellsworth is like, oh, he should be
which they did a great thing, and they had him beaten 30 seconds in their actual match. So
right.
They played it off well. So maybe it isn't as bad as it seems, since the payoff is what it should have been. But I got to get off before I forget. I got to say, I finally remembered what I was trying to spit out from my match of the year. Dallas TakeOver NXT, Nakamura versus Sami Zayn. I was not into Nakamura at all. I know he does the weird movements, and it's like, oh, he's so artsy, he's so creative with his. But when those two were battling back and forth, busting each other's face in with punches left and right, that sold me on Nakamura. And that was probably my favorite match of 2016. So
okay, yeah.
I think that'll definitely be up there in the qualifiers. So
I didn't even realize, man, the SmackDown Live was in my hometown yesterday, in Detroit yesterday, and I did see that somebody that I follow on Twitter said they actually were able to purchase some floor seats for $40.
What?
Yeah, floor seats for $40, and then they were pissed because all the good matches are happening on SmackDown next week. Because they're putting three titles on the line next week, and this week we got James Ellsworth versus AJ Styles for the belt. So
God damn.
Yeah, so I'm like, hey, that's $40 I could have kept in my pocket just looking at the results from the show. But next week, they got three belts on the line. Looks like they're saying that it's going to be possibly a triple threat with Styles, AJ Styles versus Ziggler and Corbin, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm not sold on Corbin, man. He's just at the top of the food chain because, as we've been talking about, it's just bare bones. But
yeah.
I'm not a big fan.
And I mean, I understand trying to have a brand where you're trying to build and develop some talent, but isn't that what NXT is? Like that's what NXT is supposed to be. But in all honesty, man, NXT is probably the best of the three.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, though, I think, is because they don't have a pay-per-view or a big event every month. It's because they run that old school WWE style where you got quarterly pay-per-views, and in those other months they were able to build and develop feuds. And because of that, anytime NXT puts on a takeover event, they knock it out the park almost every time.
You're right. They get to build up.
They get to build stuff, and they knock it out the park every time.
Yeah. And also enjoyable because they don't have to sell ads for every single replay and just everything throughout this on Raw and SmackDown is let's sell this real estate, and the announcers on NXT can actually sell the stories as they're happening. So able to watch in the chat room. Hot Dog he was saying, "You ain't got it no more, Ropey Award."
To somebody who should just hang it up. I saw that too. That's an interesting category. Dare I throw Undertaker on the list?
Yes.
God,
yes.
I hate to do
yes.
it, but he
yes.
needs to be
yes.
on there.
Yes.
He gets the Lifetime Achievement Award. The You Ain't Got It No More Lifetime Achievement Award. Just like, man, I love, mad respect.
Tell me this. Educate me. Break it down for me. Let me know what's going on. Taker, albeit one match a year, he can come back for 40 years straight. Folks are looking forward to it. Let Hulk Hogan, just as crippled, just as horrible to watch the ring for me, and people crap all over him, but Undertaker gets a hero's welcome every time. What's up with that?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of people respect the fact that Undertaker is who he is. He's been, obviously a dude. He's been around for a very, very long time. He's iconic, man. I know Hogan is too. Ric Flair is iconic. But Undertaker, I don't know, man. It's just something about the persona, the care. It's definitely, as far as creations, like character creations, is probably, if it's not the best of all time, is definitely top 3. Like, there's been, you got Hogan, obviously. Undertaker is probably the, one of the best. Entrance is always dope. And you know what, man? He does. Look, he's old, right? But when he has a match, he lays it out on the line, man. He still jumps over top ropes and he does all that stuff. So I think people just respect the fact that dude is, man, he's a legend, man. And I know, like I said, Hogan kind of wears out his welcomes after a while. But, Taker just gives you that once a year. And it's interesting, man, if the rumors of him versus Cena this year, if they would turn, oh my God, it could be huge if they turn John Cena heel, but they won't do it. They won't do it.
They won't.
They won't do
it. All those Make-A-Wish kids and UNICEF. I wish one of those Make-A-Wish kids would wish he goes heel. That's what I wish. Yeah. But
now here I got another candidate for the You Ain't Got It No More Ropey. And he doesn't even wrestle, and that's Mick Foley. Mick Foley, first of all, this guy is on Raw every week looking like a fool, man. Who dresses this man?
That's the problem.
Oh my gosh, man. This dude's wardrobe is beyond awful.
Horrible.
Dude came out. He was on. Was it Roadblock where he had on like the leather suit? I was like, what? I was like, what is this contraption that Mick Foley has on today? But Mick Foley would be a candidate for me for the You Ain't Got It No More award. Nobody else comes to mind though.
Can Alicia Fox saying she's never had it, but she got to go on that list too. I mean, what is she doing? She's over here collecting the paycheck, man. She's with Cedric Alexander, but it doesn't really give him a boost. They're fighting over Alicia Fox for some reason. I don't know why.
Is he fighting with the Dar dude? What's his name?
Yeah, Nomar Dar.
Nomar Dar, yeah.
Yeah, and Nomar looks like the penguin from the Gotham TV show to me.
He does a little bit, yeah.
He's really creepy looking. So this stalker role fits him very, very well. This is probably the best casting the WWE's done in years because he creeps me out. But yeah, I'm sorry.
John threw up Kane in the You Ain't Got It No More Ropey, but I think Kane's still decent, man.
He don't really
Kane,
do anything.
Big Show, those guys are kind of just. John says Michael Cole.
They love Michael Cole.
I don't think Michael Cole's going anywhere anytime soon. I think he's a lifer. He's going to be there for a while. But we'll have more nominees and categories and things on Twitter and Facebook here in the coming days. You vote on Twitter, obviously, but we'll probably throw up some nominees on the Twitter, on the Facebook as well. So
Absolutely. So lots going on. Stokes, we got one more show. One more show before the new year next week. It's after the Christmas holidays, so hopefully everybody got all fat and enjoyed their food, and then comes back and hangs out with us. Where can the good people find us online?
Oh man, so obviously everywhere, right? We're on Facebook, search Hit the Ropes. We're on Twitter at Hit the Ropes. We're on Instagram at Hit the Ropes. We have the website hittheropesradio.com. We're still looking for writers. So if you are interested in writing about wrestling, freelance writing, emphasis there on the word free, hit us up. You can actually throw your information in on the website, and you can write, your opinions and do that. So we're everywhere, man. I did say Instagram. Yes, we're on Instagram. We're on
Yep.
Facebook. We're on Twitter. You search Hit the Ropes. You will find us there. And of course,
Stokes just froze. I'm not sure what happened to him. But of course, what he was going to say, of course, you can find us on YouTube at The Ropes Radio Show. And make sure you like, subscribe is the key, so you get this each and every week to your podcast. I see Stokes is back here.
I'm back. Yeah. I don't know what happened. I got lost there, but hittheropesradio.com was what I was saying before I got cut off. Make sure you check it out.
Absolutely. And subscribe to your podcast. Please share us on all over the web here, Twitter. I'm trying to think of Twitter handles.
We're on iTunes. We're on iTunes.
Absolutely.
We're on Stitcher. We're on Google Play. Anywhere you can find a podcast, you'll be able to find Hit the Rope. So be sure to check us out. Give us a 5 rating. Show us some love.
Show us a little love. That's all we ask. Show us a little love. And I was trying to throw some love out. There we go. I finally found what I was looking for. I was searching for Mr. at JV Lewis 77, Javon Lewis, always showing us love, tweeting out the show that's on Stitcher. So we want to give him some mad props and respects for doing so. And then Hot Dog and John, as always, in the chat room, amongst others who drop in and out. So we thank everybody for tuning in. We'll be live again Wednesdays, 9 p.m. on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Any last words, Mr. Stokes?
No, man. Everybody have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Enjoy your family and friends, and then come back next Wednesday and hang out with the fellas that Hit the Ropes Radio.
All right. Thank you once again. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.